History was made on today's date. Stay tuned for an American Minute with Bill Federer.
While he was president, he married Edith Bowling Galt, who was a descendant of Pocahontas. Under his administration, the Panama Canal was completed, the Federal Reserve Bank was formed, and America entered World War I. His name was Woodrow Wilson, born this day, December 28, 1856. During the war, he proclaimed, "I, Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, do hereby proclaim a day of public humiliation, prayer, and fasting, and do exhort my fellow citizens of all faiths and creeds to pray Almighty God that he may forgive our sins and give victory to our armies as they fight for freedom."
This has been an American Minute with Bill Federer. For a free transcript, call American Minute at 1-888-USA-WORD.
VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
Thank you for joining us on Crosstalk here on VCY America. Ladies and gentlemen, sadly, anti-Semitism is running rampant at levels here in the United States, in my perspective, not seen since the Holocaust. And it's been growing all around the world. I mean, right here, though, in the United States, our focus today, there have been massive demonstrations that have been shutting down traffic flows in cities across the nation, blocking access to airports, blocking access to train transportation. Christmas events have been interrupted by those supporting the barbaric atrocities of Hamas. One of the significant breeding grounds for this anti-Semitism has been on the college and university campuses. Today you're going to be hearing firsthand from two Jewish students who testified before Congress on the rising level of pure hatred, threats of violence and intolerance toward anyone that is Jewish. Well, our guest today is speaking out on this issue and engaging his organization to fight against this intolerance. Joining us, we welcome back Brad Dacus, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. Their mission is to defend without charge the religious freedoms, parental rights, and other civil liberties of individuals who cannot defend themselves. Brad previously served as legislative assistant to U.S. Senator Phil Gramm, received his Juris Doctorate from the University of Texas School of Law. Brad, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for letting me be on the program. I appreciate it.
Brad, earlier this month, the Anti-Defamation League reported that from October 7th, that's the day the Islamic terror was, just unleashed against Israel, from October 7th to December 7th, a recorded 2,031 anti-Semitic incidents took place. That's up from 465 recorded in that same period in 2022, which is a 337% increase year over year. They report that includes 40 incidents of physical assault, 337 incidents of vandalism, 749 incidents of verbal or written harassment, 905 rallies, including anti-Semitic rhetoric, expressions of support for terrorism against the state of Israel and or being anti-Zionism. On average, over that period, that 61-day period, Jews in America experienced nearly 34 anti-Semitic incidents per day. We know of at least one Jewish man that was killed after being hit in the head by a pro-Palestinian protester. There are about 250 anti-Semitic incidents that specifically targeted Jewish institutions like synagogues. Brad, these are just levels that are off the charts.
You're right. They are off the charts. And it's something that I frankly thought I would not see again, anything like this in the United States. But yet it's a reality. And I think what's important for people to note is the fact that it's not that suddenly a lot of people in America were just convinced to be anti-Semitic, because the incident is a massacre of Jews in Israel. That was the incident, that was the catalyst that caused a lot of this communication to come forward. But what we're talking about is the presence of anti-Semitism before this incident even happened. This is just simply coming to the surface, and that is what should be very alarming. Yeah, you're going to have some young people there who are looking for a cause. The same type who wanted to radically, demonstrate in 2020 in the summer for BLM or for one group or another. You have that element, but it's much deeper than that, and that is a lot of these students are hardcore anti-Semitic. It's not something they learned yesterday or today, and that's why this should be looked upon as not just a fad or just a one-time kind of thing, and then we're going to get over it. We have deep issues of anti-Semitism, both from Muslim students who are here in the United States via visa, as well as, unfortunately, a large percentage of Muslims living in the United States, first, second, third, fourth generation.
This same article had pointed out, and you referenced the college university campuses, and they alone recorded a total of 400 anti-Semitic incidents compared to only 33 such incidents same period from the year a year ago, 2022. But Brad, it says if the college and university campuses become a breeding ground for this anti-Semitism, what is it about the college setting that is seeing such a striking rise as what we're seeing here?
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have liberals in control of our universities and colleges. We have leftists. To sort of let people understand the difference. So, we've had some, classic, liberal, professors outspoken in the past, for civil rights and things like that. That's very distinct from those to the left of them, called the leftists, who are not for civil rights, but rather for a totalitarian philosophy, and one which salutes and vindicates those who silence others, those who force the opposition to be quiet and force everyone to believe the way they do. You take that mindset and combine that with anti-Semitism, and that's what we see here in our universities. A lot of professors who have anti-Semitism, but as now they feel all the more emboldened because of this new philosophy of a leftist, Marxist ideology, where it's not about civil rights, it's not about the Constitution, it's about taking control and resetting society. Unfortunately, part of that reset, as we see, is anti-Semitism, which is extremely horrific.
Well, this past December 5th, House Republicans featured 4 students. They had a press conference ahead of the presidents, and we'll be talking about that too, the presidents of Harvard, MIT, Penn, American, testified before the Committee on Education and the Workforce. And I'm going to play a clip from one of the students, Bella Ingber, who is a student at NYU. This is what she had to say, and then, Brad, we're going to get your reaction to it. This testimony here at the Republican press conference.
Thank you all for having me and for giving me the opportunity to share with you my story. My name is Bella Ingber. I'm a junior at NYU, and I'm going to try to answer the following question for you from my personal experiences. What is it like to be a Jew at NYU? Being a Jew at NYU is walking to class and passing torn and defaced posters of innocent hostages with the words occupier and murderer written across their faces. It is going to Bob's library to study and being interrupted by unauthorized protests where students and faculty call for a globalized intifada revolution, an incitement to violence against Jews everywhere, and a call for the annihilation of the Jewish state and my friends and family who live there. Being a Jew at NYU is being surrounded by students and faculty who support the murder and kidnapping of Jews because, after all, as they say, resistance is justified when people are occupied. It is being surrounded by social justice warriors and self-proclaimed feminists whose calls for justice end abruptly when the rape victims are Jews. Being a Jew at NYU has meant being physically assaulted in NYU's library by a fellow student while I was wearing an American-Israeli flag, and having my attacker still roam freely throughout the campus. Being a Jew at NYU is experiencing how diversity, equity, and inclusion is not a value that NYU extends to its Jewish students. Since October 7th, the unmistakable anti-Semitism that I've experienced on campus is reminiscent of the Jew hatred I've heard about from my grandparents, Holocaust survivors, who experienced firsthand the deafening silence of their neighbors in Poland and Germany when the Nazis first rose to power. As anti-Semitic rhetoric and actions became more and more acceptable, their communities' shops were looted, their synagogues defaced, and finally, their families were taken away and perished in concentration camps. Today, in 2023, at NYU, I hear calls to gas the Jews, and I am told that Hitler was right. To the NYU administration, you are not free to selectively enforce your own rules. You are not free to refuse your Jewish students the same protections that you extend to others. NYU has adopted the International Holocaust Remembrance Association's definition of anti-Semitism, which recognizes that calls to harm Jews in the name of radical ideology, calls to eradicate Israel, to deny the Jewish people their right to self-determination in their ancestral homeland is anti-Semitism that is punishable under NYU's Code of Conduct. I am a proud Jew, and I am a proud Zionist. I am the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors. We are not going anywhere. Anti-Semitism and the support for terror should have no home at NYU or any other college campus. We made the promise of never again, and never again is now. Thank you.
Brad, your response.
Yeah, what she said was profound, and I liked her resolve when she ended it with, we've heard the expression "never again," and "never again" is now, and that needs to be the attitude of Americans, not just Jews but Christians as well as any others groups out there who believe in the peaceful rights of Jewish people to be able to exist in this country, on our campuses, and that's why we at Pacific Justice Institute came out, and it's so rampant. It's not just one isolated university or college here or there.
Right.
It's so rampant. We've made a pledge to protect and to legally defend any Jewish student or Christian, for that matter, that is harassed, threatened in any way by either a mob or demonstrators, or fellow students, or by professors who are isolating students and in the classroom or outside the classroom. This is something that we all need to be united and be very outspoken with. The church in Nazi Germany was way too silent. Most of the churches did not speak up. Now is our chance to speak up, and we need to encourage all of our fellow believers in Christ to be outspoken, to defend the Jewish people from going down this terrible road, which is we're accelerating as we speak.
I mean, how appalling! I mean, here she's the granddaughter of people who were engaged in the Holocaust, survivors of the Holocaust, and hearing terms like "gas the Jews" and Hitler was right. I mean, how appalling!
Yeah, and mind you, if they had said that about a different racial group, they would be booted off campus. They'd be expelled immediately. And in some states in California, they may even have hate speech prosecution against them. So we clearly see a mega double standard here. We saw the head of Harvard, being questioned, and she was the member of Congress that was asking her the question about these statements against Jewish people. She said, if you were to say this about other minorities or black minorities, I think this was a specific,
right,
you obviously wouldn't allow that for a moment. And yet, would you allow this statement to be made against Jewish people? And what was so shocking is to hear the response of the president of Harvard, which was, well, it just depends on the context.
The context. Why?
Yeah, and that was very, very telling of how anti-Semitic Harvard is all the way to the top. And that should be an alarm for everyone who appreciates freedom and liberty for all.
Friends, we're going to take a quick break. We're talking with Brad Dacus today, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. And they have pledged to fight for these religious freedoms of students, and Jewish students are being persecuted on account of their being Jewish. We'll be giving you contact information as well after the break. Back in 1 minute here on Crosstalk.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, scientist with the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, some lakes are shrinking in size. What's causing this?
Chris, the Earth's average temperature has been rising over these past few years. But is this a long-term trend? We know that over the decades, the average temperature has gone both up and down, so we wonder what's next. The current warming trend, however, has caused an increase in evaporation from some inland lakes. One lake is in the Middle East. The salty Aral Sea has shrunk dramatically, exposing a several-mile-wide salt beach. This has even affected the search for Noah's Ark. Salt has been picked up by the wind and blown all over the Middle East, including the glacier on Mount Ararat, causing it to melt quite a bit. Inland lakes are by and large leftovers from Noah's flood and the ice age which came after it. How much longer will they last? We'll have to wait and see. And that's the Back to Genesis truth.
Visit our website at www.icr.org.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Our topic today, anti-Semitism on campuses. Brad Dacus is our guest, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute. And we've heard the testimony of one student. We will be hearing one more in this segment. But Brad, you had mentioned that PJI, the Pacific Justice Institute, you're standing by. You're willing and ready to come along and aid students really fighting for their religious freedom on campus.
Yeah, we'd be happy to aid them and specifically to represent them without charge and file lawsuits against the students, against these radical Islamic organizations on campus, as well as to sue professors and the universities themselves for not providing reasonable, safe environments and places for Jewish students to be able to go to school and not have to worry about threats to their life. So we stand there ready to file a lawsuit anywhere in the United States where this happens. As many know, we have 36 offices now in 29 states, coast to coast. We stand ready with this huge footprint to go to bat for every single Jewish student in America facing this kind of outrageous anti-Semitic treatment. And in fact, we didn't just simply announce it publicly. Our staff actually worked to make contact with different Jewish organizations, student organizations, to make sure that they knew that we were there to stand right beside them and to defend them against this outrageous conduct. You know, there's two elements of this. One is the degree to which there is anti-Semitism. Number two is the degree to which there is silence when it comes to responding to it. Mm-hmm. The silence can be just as important because that is what communicates and enunciates the anti-Semitism even more. When Jewish students, see themselves being threatened and attacked, and they look to their left and right, and they see silence by their peers, that only amplifies it all the more. And we need to make sure we do not have silence. That we speak up against this, and we can't leave any student behind, and that's what we're doing at PJI.
And we just had Bill Federer for a series of events, and that was his topic, silence equals consent. And when we are silent on these matters, we're giving our consent to them. Brad, you mentioned you're willing and ready, standing by. What is your point of contact where people across this nation can be in contact with the Pacific Justice Institute?
The easiest is simply go to our website, which is pji.org, P for Pacific, J for Justice, I for Institute.org, and there they can also sign up to get our case updates called the Legal Insider as well for free. Yeah, it's our e-newsletter update.
Okay, pji.org. And for those without Internet access, you have a phone point of contact there as well?
Yes. Phone contact would be 916-857-6900, 916-857-6900, 857-6900, and I encourage people to contact us all throughout the country. If anything comes up, anything pops up, please contact us, and we'll be happy to inform you what your legal rights are, as well as the steps you need to take or that we need to take on your behalf.
You know, it's amazing.
Without charge.
Yeah, and that's very important, without charge. Brad, 3 university presidents, you referred to the Harvard, they were called in before Congress. They were the presidents of University of Pennsylvania, Harvard, and MIT. And each of them, according to news reports here, refused to say that calling for the genocide of Jews was a violation of their code of conduct. That's appalling.
Yeah, it's shocking. And if they said it about another group, a racial group or something like that, they would have spoken up and would have said, oh, yes, we'll boot them off campus. They will have there's no place for that in our university. But when it comes to attacking the Jews, it's a different ballgame. Mm-hmm. And the fact that was so evident based on their testimony from each of them, all 3 of them, is very, very telling of not just what's happening at their universities and the anti-Semitism from the top down, but also what is likely at the tops of many universities across the country. And, it's sad when you hear that the studies show, the polls show that a large percentage of Jewish families are now re-examining the idea of their child going to an Ivy League school in the future, right? Basically, them thinking, okay, let's have our child go to a safe Jewish school instead of one of these Ivy League schools or some other public or state university because we want our child to be safe. That should not be a part of the equation, but that is massively, according to one study, has just exploded as a major concern and factor now in Jewish families choosing where their child or son or daughter will attend.
And friends, what Brad has said here is that these are just representative because this is rampant across the country. I saw an article that came out December 13th from townhall.com about the U.S. Department of Education investigating yet another 6 schools for discrimination in the aftermath of Hamas's attack on Israel. Schools added to the list to be investigated: Tulane University in Louisiana, Union College in New York, Cobb County School District, Georgia, University of Cincinnati in Ohio, Montana State University in Montana, Santa Monica College in California. And previously, they announced that Cornell University, Columbia University, Wellesley, Lafayette College, University of Pennsylvania would also be investigated. This is rampant all over the country. Now, friends, I'm going to play another audio clip, one more testimony. This one is just an ounce longer than the other, but you need to hear from a student. This is a clip of Ayal Yacovi, a senior at Penn, who shared this testimony. Listen to what he had to say.
Well, I am both honored and thankful to be here. I should not be here today. I should be studying for my upcoming finals. I should be taking in every moment, every experience as an undergraduate student in my senior year of college. So while I should not be here today, I am. Because 36 hours ago, I, along with most of campus, sought refuge in our rooms, as classmates and professors chanted proudly for the genocide of Jews while igniting smoke bombs and defacing school property. The neighboring university's president immediately released a statement describing this as a brazen display of anti-Semitism. He went on saying, "Silence in the face of last night's demonstration of anti-Semitism and hate near our doorstep is not an option for me." Well, the doorstep of the neighboring university is in fact Penn. And in fact, Penn's president did choose silence. The neighboring university's president swiftly denounced the incident, and yet our president cannot. Because the glorious October 7th, and you're a dirty little Jew, you deserve to die, are words said not by Hamas, but by my classmates and professors. And because despite all of this, I am adamant and hopeful that we will not accept, least of all embrace, this horrific new normal on college campuses today. On October 7th, Israel was attacked. Since October 7th, American Jews have been under attack. My name is Ayal Yacovi, and I am a proud American studying at the University of Pennsylvania. I love Penn. I've wanted to attend this university since before I can remember. I'm here because the Penn I attend today is unrecognizable from the Penn I once used to know. Penn, once renowned for groundbreaking discoveries like the mRNA vaccine, is now a chilling landscape of hatred and hostility. Our university, revered for its pursuit of knowledge, has devolved into an arena where Jewish students tiptoe through their days, uncertain and unsafe. The situation at Penn has escalated into a full-blown crisis, with students openly asserting their intentions to proceed with plans with or without university permission. During COVID, strict guidelines governed everything from class attendance and graduation walks. Yet now, when students and faculty defy policies to intimidate Jewish students, where is the same resolute enforcement? For the past 3 weeks inside Houston Hall, our student center, an anti-Semitic headquarters has been erected with signs spreading Hamas propaganda. The organizers, both Penn-affiliated and not, were initially asked to leave as they are trespassing on campus property. Well, 3 weeks later, they are still sleeping there, and countless Jewish students have been harassed, yet the anti-Semitic dormitory remains. Clearly, both a disregard for school policies and permission to disregard them by a university unwilling to do anything. Not only are tensions palpable, but there have also been materialized actions taken to intimidate and harm students. A bomb threat against Hillel, a swastika spray painted, the Hillel and Chabad houses vandalized, a professor posting the armed wing of Hamas's logo on Facebook, a Jewish student accosted, Jews are Nazis, etched adjacent to Penn's Jewish fraternity house. Why doesn't the university hold the perpetrators of such acts accountable? Is the university fearful that they may offend those who wish to intimidate and harass their fellow students? Penn's ambivalence fuels a crisis that has shattered my academic sanctuary. Policies meant to safeguard us have become hollow promises. And let us be clear, if they fail Jewish students today, tomorrow they will fail the rest of us. Nonetheless, I refuse to go back to 1939 when Jews had to hide their religious symbols and hide who they are due to the intimidation and harassment of us. I used to think this was nonsense, fear-mongering, until I was made aware that Penn recommended to students, quote, not wear clothing/accessories related to Judaism. Hundreds of posters mocking the hostages featuring cows instead of humans adorned Penn's campus 2 weeks ago. While on my way to class, I was greeted with chalk reading 90% of pigs are gas chambered. As a student, despite what my university says, I do not feel safe. Let me be clear, I do not feel safe. Luckily, there are policies in place to protect students from the heinous acts I described. Unluckily, the university seems to have no interest in upholding those very policies. It's time for the soul of our university to reclaim its integrity. And it's time for me and my fellow classmates to stop worrying for our lives. Thank you.
Brad, a powerful address that he made there.
Yeah, it is. And how he ended it, I think, is also real significant, just like the last one. Her ending was very to the point, and yet his was as well. No student should ever have to fear going to school. Should have to fear and be intimidated to ever deny or to hide who they are as Jews. And yet that's the reality of what we're facing. The silence of University of Pennsylvania and their administration is, once again, it's deafening. And that's why we at Pacific Justice Institute saw the need to step in and to pledge to defend these students, because they can't count on the universities to do it. And they're deserving of protection and the equal and fair treatment, just like any other student who's a part of any other group. This is something that cannot be ignored any longer. And I want to encourage people out there, if they know of any student being harassed because of their faith, Jew or Christian, that they contact Pacific Justice Institute immediately and let us know so that we can go to bat for them and stand up against this growing hostility at our universities today.
And friends, their website is pji.org, pji.org. You can also reach out to them by phone at 916-857-7233. 6900. 916-857-6900. Well, we have more news and information to share on this topic. We do want to open our phone lines as well to give you opportunity to weigh in on this issue. Your question for our guest today, Brad Dacus, or brief comment today. Our number to Crosstalk, 800-733-9829. That's 1-800-733-9829. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY America Network.
The Apostle Paul's letter to the Romans is a powerful epistle proclaiming the glory of Christ, teaching sound doctrine, and giving believers boldness.
For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation.
Read by Brad Canterbury, VCY America is offering an audio CD of a complete reading of the book of Romans, telling of God's amazing love.
But God commendeth his love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us.
This audio recording also reveals God's amazing gift to mankind.
For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Good for yourself or to share with others. Paul's letter to the Romans on CD, available for a donation of $9 from VCY America. Call 1-800-729-9829.
Friends, it's happening on so many college and university campuses across the nation. Gas the Jews. Hitler was right. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I mean, on and on these goes. Calling Hitler was right, and calling for a intifada to take place, a destruction, a killing of the Jewish people, and it is growing. And Brad, I know that campuses are on break here at this time. Over the Christmas, New Year's break, but they're going to be coming back in full force. And I'm only imagining that there's going to be a lot of this that picks up right where it left off, including even as we get closer to Passover.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this anti-Semitism is being fueled partly by the media, CNN and Headline News and MSNBC. A lot of these journalists and reporters are, not giving a fair shake to Israel in their desire for self-determination and to exist and to defend themselves against the Hamas. And people need to understand there's also like a false messaging taking place here. So the false messaging is that the quote Palestinians, which are the Arabic occupiers of parts of Canaan, that are Gaza and the West Bank, these individuals, these groups, do not respect Israel's right to exist.
Right.
So it's not about two-state solution, mutual respect. No, their resolve from the river to the sea, what they're saying is the complete extermination of Israel and the occupiers of Israel. And they're not just even talking just about Israel. They're talking about Jews. And that's why the Jews in the United States are being attacked. People who've never even maybe gone to Israel before, never lived in Israel, because they're Jewish. So people need to really understand this. When the liberal media tries to say, "Oh, Israel's not being reasonable," for some crazy reason, no, it's about them trying to cover up the truth. And the truth is, the Hamas and these radical Palestinian groups, they want the Jews exterminated and they want Israel wiped off the face of the map. And we need to look at it with that same degree of seriousness. I'd like to think some of the demonstrators probably aren't thinking. They're just grabbing onto another cause because they have no purpose in life. And we've seen that before. But unfortunately, those who are over this, the leaders, this is what their resolve is, and this makes it very, very dangerous.
I know some of these protests, what river and what sea are you talking about? Well, we don't know. Let's go to Tony in Neillsville, Wisconsin. You're on the air, Tony.
I would just like to say I had this discussion, a while back with my mail carrier lady, that in my little town here of Neilsville in Clark County, I don't know of any Jewish people. I never have per se, but I tell you, I would stick up for them and defend them no matter what the cost is, because I realize what they're going through, and somebody needs to have backbone, and I got a lot of backbone.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Mike is calling from Michigan. Mike, you're on the air.
Yeah, I just had a question. It's kind of a two-part question, but I noticed, like, listen to you and Brandon House and others, and it seems like, and I don't take it the wrong way, but it seems like we blindly just follow Israel. We always back Israel, you know, and I struggle with that just because, you know, for me, how did Mossad not know that was going to happen? How could Mossad, they're way more informed than the CIA. How could they not about this attack? And then, you know, like the 2012 Economist magazine cover showed a picture of, like, the devil standing at, like, a thing with a button that said climate change, and it showed Hamas on hang gliders and stuff. So wasn't this kind of already, like, set in motion?
From 2012 to 2023. Any response, Brad?
Well, the indirect implication from what I'm taking from the caller is that Israel must have known about it, and therefore, for some reason, was willing to let men, women, and little children be killed and by the Hamas. They clearly did not know, because I don't know of anyone in Israel, the Jewish people, who would be willing to let this kind of a massacre happen. They have a high respect for human life. You can look at the Hamas in Gaza. They're using their fellow brothers and sisters as human shields. They're very little regard for life, letting little boys and girls have bombs attached to them to blow up Jews. So they have a very low standard of life as far as the value of life. We've seen that facilitated. But no, I don't think there's any evidence to support the fact that Israel in any way precipitated this. It's not even, I think, on the reasonableness of thinking. When I usually hear that, it's usually in the context of trying to, in some way, shift the blame, shift the focus away from the Hamas, and shift it at least partially somewhere else. The blame is very clear where it is. These are radical Muslims in the name of Allah, resolute to kill the Jews. And I am just so glad that other Muslim countries are not, they're silent, but I'm glad that they're not as resolved to kill all the Jews as we see in Gaza and also in Iran and some of these other places.
Mike, let me just add this to what Brad has stated, and that is there are those the propaganda that's come from Hamas and from that area of the world would indicate that the Jews did this themselves, that the Israeli Defense Force are the ones who carried out the atrocity as an excuse to go into the Gaza. There's total propaganda, total error with that. But no, we don't blindly do everything that Israel says or does. For instance, we have called out Israel even on the big LGBT events at Tel Aviv that have taken place. We put the spotlight on Israel when they were doing this forced vaccination of the COVID shot on everybody. And there are certain times in which we do disagree. But when it comes to the promises, the eternal promises that God has given to Israel, both to the people and to the land, those are eternal promises. And so therefore we do stand in this area.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, because I did hear everybody kind of backs Israel, and I'm like, well, I didn't want to insinuate that, like certain people did this on purpose, but, in my mind, I know, like, the Gulf of Tonkin, governments do get, the people's support by doing something horrific, and then we're like, hey, we got to retaliate. Yeah. Look at this. This is terrible.
And I'm sure there's going to be a full investigation into that. Right now they're fighting for their survival, and they know unless they get rid of Hamas, their survival is at risk. But thank you, Mike, for the call. We do appreciate it here. We have Tom calling next. Hi, Tom. You're on the air.
Yes, I was calling because I just wanted to say I remember back in the Iran crisis, the Iran hostage crisis thing, and I remember being so proud of America because they had police protecting the Iranians who were complaining about us. But we certainly have gone downhill a lot since then. Because because this is certainly not the way America should be acting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's what you referred to earlier, Brad, as far as the double standard that's taken place.
Yeah, it's a real clear and unfortunate double standard, that's just not what America is about. We're about equal treatment, equal protection for all, and we take that for granted. But much of the world doesn't have that, doesn't believe that, and it's from that we have the roots of such horrific persecution against the Jews erupting, and we even see it in sometimes by government leaders of some of those countries in the Middle East, and it should be extremely alarming, though, when we see it being uttered from the tops of universities in America.
Our next caller is from Fountain Hills, Arizona. William, you're on the air.
Yes, thank you so much for letting me on the air, and I appreciate Crosstalk so much. I wanted to tell you that in 2005, I went to Israel with an organization called SAREL, SAREL, and they are still in existence today. That organization means Serving Israel. And I did work for the IDF there in Israel at one of their military bases. And I returned again in 2007. I got the Jewish man that had invited me to go over there and do this, to do a program in our church. And I was surprised. Nobody supported this. Nobody at all. And so I am not surprised at all at the anti-Semitism, because it's everywhere, and it's a lot of it's subdued and kind of kept secret, but it's there. And it's there even in my own church. And it's heartbreaking to me because I don't see that in the Scriptures. The Scripture says that we are to bless Abraham because there's curses from God for those who curse Abraham and his people, his seed. And Jesus is his seed.
It was blessed through the line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Yes.
So I wanted to just speak out on this and tell Specific Justice how much I appreciate what they're doing, and I appreciate people that stand up for Israel.
Thank you.
They need us so much.
Thank you, William. Now. Thank you. Again, that's pji.org is her website. Brad, he brought up the matter of the church. Are you finding support for Israel, these promises from God to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their descendants, as waning in the church?
Well, I think it depends quite a bit from what kind of church we're talking about. So I would say evangelical churches that are Bible-believing, Bible-teaching, solid churches. The pastors that I'm familiar with and I interact with when I'm traveling and speaking at churches, they're solidly behind Israel. They're resolutely behind Israel. Where I find the variance, though, the concern is in some of the mainline denominations, like they say the Episcopal, First United Methodist. I remember even speaking to a Presbyterian pastor of a PCA Presbyterian, and I thought, well, this is going to be pretty solid. Of course, he'll be for Israel. He believes in the Bible and the Scriptures, and I was stunned to hear him say, well, no, I don't see the nation of Israel, this nation of Israel, as the Israel that is protected and blessed in Scripture. I see this as just something totally different, and we should have no responsibility to defend Israel. I was stunned, but that does exist, and I think it's predominantly, especially in mainline denominations, that do not take the Word of God seriously, or they compromise it. Similar to the same churches that are compromising based on sexuality and other kinds of issues that are abhorrent according to the Word of God. These seem to be the same churches that are compromising with regards to Israel, and so people need to really ask that question when they go to church.
Let me get Barbara in before the break here. Junction City, Kansas. Barbara, you're on the air.
Thank you for taking my call. When my husband and I lived in Germany the first time, we visited Dachau, Germany, and that was a concentration camp. And it was not like visiting an amusement park. It was very sobering to stand in that rusting out chamber, knowing that in that very room probably 1 million people had been exterminated in that very place. And so I encourage everyone listening to stop contributing to the alumni associations and in any way giving money to your university if they are engaging in this kind of activity. Vote with your checkbook, because if we stay silent, tomorrow it'll be us.
Barbara, thank you for raising that. I'll have our guest comment after the break.
Thank you.
And friends, we'll be back in just 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. We'll pick up with more calls after the break. Brad Dacus is with us. Their website, pji.org. It's the Pacific Justice Institute. Back in a moment.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website is worldviewreport.com. Matthew 25, Jesus is separating the sheep from the goats. Now, don't confuse Matthew 25 with Revelation 20, the great white throne judgment. That's where he judges the dead. This is Matthew 25, where he's judging the Gentile nations that have come out of the tribulation. He's separating the sheep from the goats, and he commends those sheep who ministered to his brethren. I was in prison and you visited me. I was sick, right? And you cared for me. I was thirsty. You gave me water. Remember that? Well, that passage is used to promote social justice. It's not about social justice. He said, you ministered to my brethren. In the Greek Strong, we find out that the brethren is the Jews. You know how hard it is today to stand up for the Jewish people since October 7th with the rise of anti-Semitism? We've not seen anything compared to what's going to happen during the tribulation. And Jesus isn't saying you're saved because you help the Jews. You help the Jews because you're saved.
Our topic today, anti-Semitism on campuses, university, college campuses across the nation. Brad Dacus is with us, president and founder of the Pacific Justice Institute, pji.org. And their phone number is 916-857-6900. Brad, that call right before we went to the break talked about people vote with your checkbook. I mean, if you're alumni of these institutes, pull your funding from this. We see also Representative Virginia Fox of North Carolina, when these universities were testifying, she said, federal funding should be yanked from these universities. So your comments on the issue of funding, whether it be alumni or the federal funding that's going into these universities.
Yeah, that's a good long-term viewpoint and perspective to take is looking at the funding, because when this all stops, the money will continue to flow to these universities. So I encourage people not only to not to support financially these universities standing up for these things, but also to investigate their alumni university, find out specifically what are they doing, what are they not doing, are they into DEI, for example. And I went to Texas A&M undergrad, found out the whole massive part of the university was supporting DEI. And then second is to encourage legislators. Hopefully, after this next election, we'll have people in the White House and the Senate, et cetera, who will be able to really firm down on the standards in financially supporting universities, and in a way that is both constitutional as well as not abusive of our funds to be anti-Semitic and having institutions that are anti-Semitic.
Let's go to Todd in Upper Michigan. Hi, Todd. You're on the air.
Yeah. I believe that the nations of the world are going to be shaken up when the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob gives the Jewish people all the land from the river to the sea back to Israel as he promised Abraham. And that's going to really shake the nations up because they're going to see that God reigns in the earth.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for raising that issue, Todd. We've got Brad in West Dallas. You're on the air, Brad.
Hey, Brother Jim. The left in this country has changed again. They keep moving the goalposts. I can remember, and it wasn't all that long ago, and they used to be against anti-Semitism. What, are they going to come out in favor of, putting blacks back in chains or something in sometime in the future? We're called haters when we tell the truth about Muslims and Islam and even the Quran. We show them what the Quran says, and they say that's hate speech. And now they're calling Jews Nazis.
Yeah.
But they're the ones acting like the Nazis.
Right.
Don't they think at all?
Yeah.
The American college graduate or college scholar has become the American college punk, and they're the haters now.
Thank you, Brad. And we find those who are, crying intolerance the loudest are practicing it the most here, Brad.
Yeah, when I see two people talking and one of them is screaming and yelling in the face of the other person, it's more likely than not that the person that's screaming and yelling in the face of the other is the one that's accusing the peaceful person of being a hater.
Right.
They don't see it, but it's the hate is very intense, very extreme, and if we need to be anti-hate, then we need to defend the Jews on these university campuses that are being attacked by those who hate them and want them annihilated and exterminated, and the nation of Israel to no longer exist. We have to be resolved.
Julie is calling from Pensacola, Florida. You're on the air.
Yes, I do condone all of the activities that are going on against Israel and all, and I feel bad that they are being treated this way. And yet I think I remember reading something about how all nations are going to be against Israel in the end times, and it just makes me feel like there's an urgency to really spread the gospel so that many more people can be saved, because it makes me feel with everything going on right now, the end times are coming closer and closer.
Yeah, indeed. And Julie, just to clarify, you're saying you don't condone these activities on the campuses. Great.
Well, I think it's wrong the way the Jewish people are being treated this way. It's just wrong.
Yep.
They need to be loved.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And then Ron in La Crosse, our final caller today, you're on the air.
Hello. I don't know if anybody brought this up, but what about the funding of these universities? How much money? They might be getting money from the terrorist groups in these Islamic countries that basically make them be quiet.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And yeah, we addressed the funding in part, but I know that there are other, not only calling for Congress to pull the funding for them, but there's also been people coming from the Israeli Defense Ministry that is also blasting the Hamas propaganda that's at the universities. And so Hamas propaganda influencing universities and protest money is being poured in, activating terror networks around the world, reports Pamela Geller. So there is much there. Brad, we're down to 90 seconds. Share your heart. What would you like to leave with our listeners on this issue?
Yeah, we have to not let this just fade away. We have to be resolved. This is a golden opportunity for Christians to exhibit the love of Christ by speaking up. We can look back in history. What happened in Germany can't be reversed, but we can handle responsibly what's happening now to the Jewish people and speak up for them and to defend them with the love and truth of Jesus Christ. And that's what we need to be doing, and that should be our focus moving forward, as well as supporting those in elective office that have the right position with regards to Israel and non-compromising regarding the protection and the defense of the Jewish people, which unfortunately we're seeing on a massive scale politically at very, very dangerous levels.
Friends, Brad Dacus, our guest here today, and talking about anti-Semitism on campuses. I just saw a story, too, on the Daily Wire, reported of Jewish students, Northeastern University in Boston, encountered an anti-Israel demonstration taking place in their campus center as they tried to enter the building to attend a Shabbat dinner. They were forced to walk through anti-Jewish sit-ins to get to their event, clearly shaken. One of the banners from a railing called to globalize the Intifada, and that is what is taking place on the college campuses. PJI is there to stand up for the religious freedoms of the students. You can reach out to them at pji.org or by calling 916-857-6900. Brad, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure, and keep up the great work.
Great. And stay on the line for a moment, if you would. Brad Dacus, our guest today. Let me just repeat that website, pji.org. And friends, much information there, but organization that is standing up against these evil atrocities of the Hamas and that rhetoric that's making its way through college campuses today. God bless you, folks. Thanks for joining us on Crosstalk.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.